Hey, John at Witchdoctors here. Going to do another DIY video for you. A lot of people have been asking, how do you get the fuel pump out of a crossbike tank? We have the video on the steel frames, but I didn't have a video on the crossbike, so I thought I'd show you. It's not real hard. So once you watch, we have the video on how to get the tank off the bike, so once you watch that, kind of get you to this stage on how to do it. Now this is an old gas tank I have, so it's beat up. But you would want to set yours down on a blanket or something, you know, so you don't scratch it up. If you can get the gas out of it, that's good. You know, it's a lot easier to move around. It's not so heavy. It's not super important to get the gas out, but if you can, it's a little bit easier to do the job. So you want to come in here, we'll show you what you have. When you flip the tank over, you'll see this is the fuel pump, fuel filter, everything's all built into one module here. So if you're lucky enough and you didn't break this nipple off because you watched our video on how to do it, your line's still going to be attached. This fitting comes off the same way as the one down by the cheese wedge. You can see the little, on this bike it's got the little blue like clips here. You just squeeze those, there's one on each side, so you just kind of pinch them and just kind of twist that and it comes right off. So you can see the fittings, and if you watch you can see inside there when you pinch it, it loosens up the collar inside there and it slides off. Okay, so you just kind of get that out of the way so you can work obviously your electrical. These bolts here are 8mm, so you just take those out. You can use a socket. I have just a driver here. They're not in there really tight. And one thing Victory recommends obviously is when you put this back together, you put a new gasket in there, and it's kind of like an O-ring. It's not really a gasket per se, but you take this off, you take these all out. I just kind of go in like a crisscross pattern, star pattern, some people tell you. You know, you don't want to really start on one side and go, because you can kind of warp stuff a little bit, and being this is plastic, it's a good idea just to, you know, kind of do that crisscross pattern. Now sometimes these pumps will come right out, and sometimes you got to kind of pry on them a little bit. You don't want to go crazy prying, but sometimes, like I say, they'll come right out. But there's nothing more than that. So you take the screws out, and now it's loose. Okay. Oh, got one more. Okay. So now the pump's loose. And it feels like it won't come out, okay? It's sort of stuck and you're wondering what else is in there. Nothing really. The filter's sort of back this way. So it just kind of gets caught on, there's a hose in there, and it's really hard to show you. I'll try to tip the tank up here so you can see this. I don't know if I can get it with the light maybe. But if you can see down in here, I don't know if you can see it down in here, but down in here is the hose, okay? So that hose is what gets stuck. So you just kind of reach in there and you pull. You don't want to pry, you don't want to go crazy. You just kind of push that hose back. And I've had some of these where you just got to walk away for a minute. You just kind of pull that hose back, okay? So now it's out, okay? So you pull that back and you kind of have to tip it and then out. So you got that out now, okay? Now your fuel filter is still stuck back here, so if you pull up, it won't come up. That's where you have to kind of go forward and kind of get it. Now, you don't want to pull real hard because you have this wire connected here. And this wire is just, I'll try to do this with a screwdriver, this little tab right here, okay? This little tiny tab right here. You just push that down. It's like a little, I can do it with my finger, you can see better. You just push that down and pull this out, okay? So that little tab right there is what you're unhooking, okay? So you get that unhooked. Now you can kind of finagle this thing out of there. Now, on this deal, what you have is your fuel filter is here, and this is your fuel pump, okay? So if you needed to change the fuel pump, you know, you would just disconnect the hose. You can see there's a hose back here. This is just braiding over it, but you take that hose off. There's a wire connector here. Just pull that off, and then the pump basically will kind of slide out of this bracket. This right here is a lock ring. You have to kind of pull this. You can see this thing here. You kind of have to pull that lock ring off to get that out. And the same with the fuel filter. Now, you can see this filter. Might be hard to see, but if you can see the white here and the yellow here, this is stuff breaking down. Okay, see how that all chips off there? This filter's just shot. Okay, so you can see that, how that's like that. Okay, so to change the fuel filter, you kind of just do the same thing. This line here is a plastic line. You kind of have to cut that off. Okay, and then the kit comes with a line and a clamp. So for the most part, that's how you get that out. I wasn't really going into the whole deal on changing the pump and the filter, but you know, to give you a quick little rundown, there's a little clip here that you have to take off, this real tiny little clip right here. That has to come off to change some of this out. Okay, this is the O-ring gasket I was telling you about right here. Okay, it just kind of sits down in there. And I'll just pop this back down in the tank to kind of show you how you do it. Okay, so you would put that gasket in there. Now, it should stick in there for you. If you look, I'll show you. You see these little teeth on here? Those little teeth is what kind of holds it in there. If by chance it doesn't want to stay in there, you can take a real tiny little bit of silicone and just put a little dot in here, in and around, just to sort of hold that in there. You don't want to goop it all up, just enough to hold it. Okay, so if you wanted to put this back together, make sure you hook your electrical connector here, because the last thing you want to do is forget that and then put it all back together and put it on the bike and wonder what's going on. Just take your filter, kind of tuck it down in there, and it's just the reverse. You're going to go that way, and this right here is the hose that I said is hard sometimes to get out of there. That's what you got to kind of push back on, and being it's a little bit more of a solid hose, it's a little bit harder. So you just kind of push that hose down in. Okay, so you would put that all in there like that, and then you would just start putting your bolts back in. Okay, and again, you want to kind of do a star pattern, crisscross, working from the center out. So you'd kind of tighten these two up, and then like these two, and then these two, and then just kind of keep going around. And you don't want to put them up tight the first time. Just get them snug, and then come back around and tighten them all up evenly. You don't want to crank these two down all the way. Just get them a little bit started, a little bit snug, and then work your way out, and then the final time you can go around and tighten them all up. So that's pretty much how you change the fuel pump, or at least get the fuel pump out of the gas tank on a cross bike, cross country, crossroads, tour, all that. Any cross bikes, that's how you do it. So hopefully you learned something today. If you need any of these parts, check out witchdoctors.com. We carry the pumps and the gaskets and all the stuff. So if you got any questions, you know, contact our customer service. We'll be glad to help you out. So thanks for watching, and do it yourself and save some money.